Hello, and welcome to another episode of Positive Solutions for Life. Today's guest is Katharine Giovanni. She is a three-time award-winning, best-selling author, speaker, and one of the original founders of the independent concierge industry. Katharine has authored over 12 books, including her latest release, The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness: Unlocking Your Power. Katharine's journey from battling stage 3 breast cancer to navigating a challenging childhood has given her profound insights about resilience and forgiveness. So, welcome to the podcast, Katharine.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited for our conversation. And with that, can you start by sharing just a little bit more about your personal journey and how it has led you to where you are today?
Well, it probably started way back in never mind what year it was. I was in the 8th grade. My parents were getting a horrible divorce. I was getting really bullied in school badly. And as a result, I tried to commit suicide. So I turned into that kid, that angry kid draped in black. You know the kid I'm talking about. We all went to school with these kids. And I I had one or two friends, and I kind of just floated like a buoy through life for the next 20 years. And I was angry. And the fact I had survived a challenging, childhood with alcoholism and all these other stuff with the bells and whistles, I kind of wore it like a coat, like a badge of honor. I was kind of proud of it. And then in 1980, what I can't remember, late 1980s, my mother sobered up. Even she fell down a flight of stairs, ended up with a broken hip in the hospital. And even my mother can't get a gin and tonic in Lenox Hill Hospital, although she did try. So she was forced to dry out, and we became really, really tight, closer than sisters. And then 3 years later, she died of breast cancer. And I went back down into my fog. But I realized that if I didn't change my life, I was going to die. Flat out, knew it without a shadow of a doubt. So I quit drinking. I've been 34 years sober, I think, as of January. I changed my life, and I started to forgive people. And it kind of opened up my world. I started to feel better. I started to venture out of my apartment. And really started to forgive people in the concierge industry, because I can't teach you customer service that goes above and beyond everybody else's. And I can't teach, I can teach you the words, I can teach you what to say and how to look and all these wonderful things. But if you're angry, it's going to bleed through your body language, whether you want it to or not. And unless you're a really good actor, you're not going to be able to stop it. So I started adding forgiveness to my workshops, which was considered kind of taboo back in those days because you didn't add soft topics. But I did. And from there, in 2020, I finally found the special sauce to forgiveness. So people who have a nasty habit of not staying forgiven once you try will now stay forgiven.
Nice, nice. That is so intriguing. So, can you tell us a little bit more about that journey and why you wrote this book?
I wrote the book because our world is angry. It's really angry. And everybody from your parents to your minister to your teachers tell you you should forgive. Great. How?
Yeah.
Nobody teaches you how. I'm going to teach you how. My book has a step-by-step. It literally will teach you how to forgive. That being said, everybody listening to this podcast right now, 10 out of 10 people are all thinking of that unforgivable person or memory that you don't want to forgive. Knee-jerk reaction. That's what everybody says. When they see the word forgiveness, they're like, oh, no, I'm not going to. That's because you're thinking of on a 10 scale, with 10 being a dumpster fire and unforgivable, you're thinking of the dumpster fire. So in my world, there's two things. First, you don't have to forgive the person who's a number 10. You don't. So I'm going to take the stress off your back right now. You don't have to forgive them. Why? Because there's other people you can forgive before that. In other words, the people you rate a 1, easy. The girl who stained your sweater in grammar school, you can forgive her. The person who cut you off in aisle 4 of the grocery store yesterday, you can forgive that person. You got a little road rage on I-95. you can forgive that.
Mhm.
Start with the easy ones and then work your way up to the dumpster fire. That's going to help a lot. And that's why I wrote the book. I want to teach people how to
Mhm.
lose their anger. Because imagine if you weren't angry, imagine how much stuff you've been missing just being
Right.
angry, because you're focused on the anger, aren't you? So you're not
Right.
focused on your job or your loved ones or how to make money or how to lose weight. Or
Mhm.
there's a reason to buy the book. Maybe you'll lose some weight because you'll focus better. There you go.
There you go. Well, yeah, I mean, that's an interesting concept because I'm just like putting the two together and how you've described it is a lot of times our anger, we're holding on to something like a grudge. Somebody
Right.
did
Oh,
us some
yeah.
wrong. And a lot of that anger can be like just dissipated if we can teach ourselves how to forgive that.
Well, anger, here's a visual for you for everybody listening to the podcast. I'm holding an opaque coffee cup right in front of my face. So when you first get angry, I can hold this coffee cup filled with anger off to the side. Now look at my body language. You and I are talking. I can
Mhm.
see opportunities. Oh, I'm going to get a raise. Great. I can see that. I can keep the anger in the back of my head. It's manageable. I got this.
Mhm.
But the longer you hold on to this sucker, the harder it's going to be to hang on to. And eventually, now that I'm holding the coffee cup in front of my face and my body language is pretty much stopped, you and I
Mhm.
can't have a conversation because all I talk about is what happened to me. It's
Mhm.
in every conversation, even if you spin it funny. It's all I think about.
Mhm.
Now, the downside of it, the person you're mad at is not thinking about you at all. Doesn't that
Right.
make you mad?
Yeah.
You kind
That
of
just
want them to
adds to it.
wallow as much as you're wallowing. But the truth is, they're not giving you a second thought,
Right.
which kind of irritates you even more, but they're not. So the prisoner is you.
Mhm.
Basically, bottom line, what you want is you want these people to get out of your head. You want to stop thinking about them. And
Mhm.
forgiveness is going to allow you to do that. Now, other people have said, well, I don't want to because I don't want to go back to those memories. I'm only asking you to go back to those memories one last time.
Mhm.
I want you to go back there one last time and forgive as much as you can so you never have to go back there again. And
Mhm.
if you're wearing your story like a coat of armor, okay, very scary. Who am I going to be if I don't tell people my story?
Mhm.
Very scary. Well, consider this. Maybe you'll be the person that you were meant to be when you came onto this planet. When you were born, maybe this is the reason you were meant to be here.
Mhm.
You're not meant to walk around in a big pall of, anger. That's
Right.
kind of not
Right.
why you're here.
Yeah. Well, can you share a little bit about how to do that? I know
Sure.
you put it in your book, but can you give us some insights on like how to do that?
Well, first of all, if I forgive you, it doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I probably don't. Second, it's not, I have great respect for all the recovery programs out there. But in my world, unless, of course, you really want to, you don't have to reach out to this person. You don't have to talk to these people. Nobody has to know you're doing it. You can do it in a closet. You can do it in your bedroom. Nobody has to know. Right.
Mhm.
It also doesn't mean they were correct. They weren't. It just means I want you out of my head. I'm not letting them off the hook even remotely. I don't care about them. I care about you.
Mhm.
Also, if you're with other family members and you've got a memory that other family members have a good memory around and they're saying, how could you think that? Because this person is this, and they're great. And you're just sitting there thinking, well, no, they're not. They did this, and this.
Mhm.
With all due respect, I don't care about your family member and what their memory is. I care about you. You're the
Mhm.
one who has the bad memory. You're the one I care about.
Mhm.
I They can have their good memories. I don't care. It's you I care about. Now, what you're looking for is neutrality. You want to be able to look at their face
Mhm.
on Facebook or look at their name, and you don't want the rockets going off in your head.
Mhm.
You don't want to think good things. You don't want to think bad things. You really don't want to think anything. You want to be neutral. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for neutrality. And I'm going to have you sit down and write a list of all the people you think you want to forgive. And then I want you to rate numerically the people on that list from 1 to 10. And 10 is unforgivable dumpster fire. And then I want you to take them in little bites, do it before you go to bed because your body heals itself when it goes to bed. And your anger energy is going to have to go out somehow.
Mhm.
And I want you to just start with the number ones. and just slowly work your way through the list. And what
Mhm.
everybody forgets is they forget about the energy. Why don't people stay forgiven? Why am I still angry? Because you didn't forgive the energy.
Mm.
Einstein proved, there is a science chapter in there for every naysayer listening
Oh,
to this.
good.
Einstein proved that energy is neither created nor destroyed. So what it just transforms. So what happens when you get mad? Everybody thinks that when you get angry, it just goes out into the universe and dissipates magically.
Mhm.
Sadly, it does not. Science proved that it actually stays in your energy field. And
Mhm.
that's why anger is toxic. If you've ever wondered why people say that, is because the anger is toxic. It's literally hanging around in your energy field. It's literally permeating your body,
Mhm.
right? There
Right.
was a study done. You can look this up. It's really cool pictures. I can't pronounce his name to save my soul. I want to say he's a Japanese researcher named Matsumoto or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's the Japanese research study of water. And if you Google that, you'll probably find it. And I'm going to dumb this down really, really in the
Mhm.
interest of being fast. 2 containers of water. 1 container of water, he said these beautiful, loving, beautiful things, put it in the light, treated it really well. The other container of water, he put it in a closet. I mean, he literally kept it in the dark. He said
Mhm.
nasty things. He berated it. He said awful, awful things to it. Put the water under a microscope. The water he said nasty things to had these dark, nasty black malformations. I mean, it was really gross. The
Mhm.
pictures are really interesting. And the water he said nice things to were like these snowflake, crystalline, gorgeous formations.
Wow.
Your body is 98% water.
Mhm.
So when you're thinking ugly thoughts or you're angry, what is that doing to the water within your body? That's why anger is toxic, because it's turning into these horrible things, these horrible malformations, and it's literally making you sick.
Yeah, like you just touched on that, and that was what was going on in my head is like this could physically make us sick.
Yep, it does.
Physically, mentally,
Mhm.
emotionally, and just obviously anger is emotion, so it's
Yeah,
a feeling that just keeps going and going. So that can really literally make us sick. It
anger
can be
is
a cause,
literally toxic.
yeah, and it can be a
It's
cause for a lot of that.
Oh,
Really, really
absolutely.
sick.
And the water gets into every cell in your body, into
Mhm.
everything. So why does your liver go? Why do you get ulcer? It's because the anger is toxic.
Mhm.
And there's other reasons why you get sick, but if you
Right.
can lose at least, and I understand you can't lose the unforgivable. I get that. And that's actually kind of fair. Maybe it's not even appropriate for you to forgive this person.
Mhm.
Let's use a very horrible example, which I've been using right lately. Let's say you were raped in a park,
Mhm.
Central Park, New York, mostly because I'm from New York. I understand that you can't forgive the rapist. There's only 1% on our planet of these beautiful people that have this magical ability to forgive the unforgivable. And I wrote the book on it. I'm not even sure I could.
Mhm.
It's hard, right?
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
there's other things you could forgive. You can forgive the bench. You can forgive the park. You can forgive if you were bullied. You can forgive the school building. You can forgive your desk, your childhood home. You can forgive the energy around your childhood home. That's what I'm telling you, that you could forgive people, places, and things. I
Mhm.
forgave 1974. Did. Whole darn year. And the energy around the whole year. Why? Because that's when I was in the 8th grade. And that whole year was a dumpster fire. And I took the whole year and I pulled out the people, places, and things, my childhood home, my childhood school,
Mhm.
and I made my list surrounding that whole year. And then at the very end, I forgave the whole year.
Nice. Because I was having a hard time conceptualizing, forgiving a chair or forgiving a house or something, but it's the energy that we associate with it. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yeah. If you were sitting at a dining room table and you were constantly being yelled at the dining room table as a child, you could forgive. And whenever you look at that table, you have bad memories associated with that table,
Mhm.
forgive the table and the energy around the table, and that memory will probably dissipate. Now, don't get me wrong. Please let me be clear. I can go back into the past and I can dredge up all the memories you want me to. but now they're kind of fuzzy now. I don't bring them up on a daily basis. And now when I look back on my childhood, I see the love that was there, and I'm picking out the love memories.
Mhm.
And everybody's childhood, it has at least one. You've got a teacher, you've got a dog that you loved. I mean, there's always something that you could
Mhm.
pick out, and you can kind of twist it into love. There's
Yeah.
always something you could pick out, but you're not going to want to go back to the past as much. You're not going to want to live there.
Right. Right. Because there's so much more to live for.
Yeah, don't die until you're dead.
We don't have to keep drudging up the past and just staying there and just dying the rest in our present life to that.
No, and don't wait until you get a nasty disease. I am a breast cancer survivor, and when you have dinner with the Grim Reaper and you don't go home with the guy, it kind of changes you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'd like to tell people, don't wait until you've got this, there's a chance, oh, I could die. At the end of everybody's, I've talked to a lot of oncology nurses and end of life nurses, and nobody on their deathbed looks at them and say, God, I wish I'd made more money. They're all regretting relationships and people. They're
Mhm.
looking at the love they had in their life.
Mhm.
And that, at the end of the day, is why I'm encouraging everybody to forgive, because once you forgive, there's going to be a release. You're going to start to feel better. Coffee's going to smell better. You're going to look at the world through love as
Mhm.
opposed to hate. And you're going to see opportunities that you didn't see before because you were too focused on the hate. But
Yeah.
do start with the number ones. Do not start with those number 10s, because they are a bear. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. And it's also like an onion. You're going to peel back some of the layers, and you're going
Mhm.
to use my forgiveness mantra. And then in my worksheets, I'm going to have you check your emotions. So if you're, let's say, trying to forgive a number 7, and you've done my little mantra, and I say, are you still mad? Yeah, I can't look at that name yet. Okay, well, maybe you've gotten it down to a 6.
Mhm.
So wait 24 hours and try it again.
Mhm.
That's why this might take a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
But
can't get a
starting,
10 down to a 1 in one sitting. Not going to
no.
happen.
Yeah. And starting
Not going
with
to
the
happen.
easier ones, the ones and twos, you can kind of get the feel for how it works.
Right.
And
And
you
you'll
can
feel
start
better.
monitoring your feelings and how your energy level. It's like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And now it's like, oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
that's good. I don't really think about that anymore. I'm not carrying it with me. I think of a backpack with like bricks and rocks in the back of it.
exactly.
We were hiking a couple weeks ago, and so it was just like, oh, that's cool. We were collecting rocks, and I didn't want all of them in my backpack, but it weighs you down,
It
right?
does weigh you down, and it makes it awful hard to live life. There's so many coaches out there that talk about a brick wall, and here's some tips on how you can get through that wall, and like, you're going to get through it with a jackhammer. Um, Hello. What if you're me and why don't you just walk around the darn thing? Pick out a few bricks that will make your load lighter, walk around the wall, keep going, and circle back later. That's why you do the number 10s last. You're picking things out of the wall, and you're and later, if you want to circle back, great. If you don't want to circle back because it was really, really horrific, that's fine too.
Hmm. Yeah. As long as you're cleaning up some of the littler ones, so you're
Hmm.
lightening your load anyway.
Yeah. And
You
forgive
don't.
yourself. Sometimes forgiving yourself is the hardest one of the bunch.
Oh, that's interesting. Because how many times do we think about forgiving ourselves for that? Can you give an example of how somebody might need to forgive themselves for something?
We're all human, and
Mhm.
human beings irritate other human beings. And we'd like to think that we're the good guy through our entire life, and we've always done the right thing and taken the high road. And the real truth of it is we probably haven't. And there's probably somebody you broke up with in a relationship, and you probably maybe you did it by text, or there's always something in your past. You yelled at somebody and you knew it was wrong at the time, or you berated somebody who worked for you. There's always something in your past. Sometimes you are the bad guy, and especially when it comes to family, and forgiving yourself for saying the wrong thing at the wrong time is often very hard,
Mhm.
because first you have to admit that you made a mistake, and nobody wants to do that, but everybody has things in their past that they feel guilty about, and those things you can forgive and move on from. Forgive yourself, because more than likely what you're beating yourself up on, it wasn't your fault. Somebody out there needs to hear that. It wasn't your fault, and you can forgive it.
Hmm. Hmm. So when somebody's like, oh, well, I don't really know what or who I need to forgive.
Now that's easy. I want you to turn off your computer, turn off your smartphone. It has an off button, by the way. Turn the volume off, put it down, put it under a pillow, just get rid of it. Tell the kids to go out and play. I want you all alone in peace and quiet. Get out a piece of paper and a pen, or if you prefer, your laptop, don't really care, or your smartphone. And I want you to start writing names down randomly. I don't want you to really think about it. The name you're thinking about right now is probably the person you should write down first on the paper. And don't judge yourself. You know, a friend of mine wrote down a little red wagon the first time she wrote her list. She has no memory of a little red wagon. She has no reason to understand why she wrote the little red wagon, but she forgave the darn thing because obviously somewhere in her past, a little red wagon hurt her and she needed to forgive it. So Katie being Katie, she just rolled with it and she forgave the little red wagon. So whatever you write on your list is correct. And then I want you to rate the things on your list from 1 to 10 and start with the ones. And family is usually tens, siblings, grandparents, parents.
Mhm.
Usually that's where the tens lie.
Yeah,
Unless
because
it's a really horrific experience. Usually your tens are your family.
yeah, and I see the family as like there's so many intertwined, aspects of it
It's
that
like a
you almost
spider web.
have to, yeah, that you almost have to pick apart certain situations
Yep.
or certain times, like, a certain day or, like an event that happened. So it's like that person as a whole might be very, very difficult. But like you were talking about the brick wall, you could
Pick out
start
an event.
taking little bricks out.
I can't forgive my family member for what they did to me at Christmas because they sat me next to Aunt Martha and they know I don't like Aunt Martha, who always talks about the sweater she knitted me for Christmas that didn't fit. You know, I could go on and on.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about forgiving them for Thanksgiving or the time you had to go out to lunch? There's other parts of your
Mhm.
relationship with this person that you can forgive. Something that didn't mean as much. The time
Mhm.
your ex-husband forgot to bring home dinner. Okay, you can probably forgive that memory. And
Mhm.
believe it or not, just that tiny little taking out that tiny little brick out of the wall, that's going to make you feel better.
Mhm.
And let me be clear, it doesn't mean they were correct. They weren't. You're forgiving for you. Forgiveness is selfish. You do it for you because you're the prisoner. There's this invisible cord that's linked between you and this person. And that's the last link you want because you're mad at them. So what forgiveness does is it kind of crushes that cord and releases you so you can live your life and without thinking about them,
Yeah.
which is exactly what they're doing. So yeah.
That is like, so it's you're forgiving, but you're not necessarily forgetting. You're
Oh
just
no, I'm not telling you to forget. Right.
neutralizing the energy.
You can't forget. Everybody says forgive and forget.
Yeah.
I've always wondered about that because I've never been able to do it. I
Right.
still have the memory and it's still there and I'm not going to forget it. But you
Mhm.
can forgive it so the memory is not at the front of your head and is now in the back of your head in a vault. And by forgiving that memory, you can push it all the way back so you never have to think about it again. Unless you want to. I mean, yeah, I can bring up the stories now, but there's no energy to them. There's
Mhm.
no emotion.
Mhm.
There's no there's no emotion behind the words that I'm saying. And I could spin it funny because I genuinely mean it because it's all ridiculous. Why should I be angry? I'm 63 and I'm sitting here being angry at something that happened when I was 15. Really, that's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. I mean, come
Right.
on.
Right.
But yet here we all are. We're
Mhm.
all doing it. Something happened in our childhood that just is bad. You have to
Mhm.
forgive yourself.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's just so interesting how it's like that could really transform somebody, right?
Yep.
I mean, it really can change their perspective. It can change their mood. It can change the way they interact with other people.
You might find that as you forgive, you're going to transform yourself. And the people around you are going to notice. And they're not used to seeing you as this new happy person. So they may try and sabotage it because they don't want the person they know to go away. In other
Mhm.
words, they want you to be as miserable as they are because it makes them feel better.
Yeah.
So if you're living with somebody who's a number 10, who's verbally abusive, a narcissist, physically abusive, may I say from the bottom of my heart, please leave. If you're not living with this person, try and not be around them as much. I'm not saying ghost them, but try and limit your exposure to these toxic people, because that's also going to help. And that's for your mental health. Limit your exposure, forgive them, and then just try and not be around them.
Yeah.
Jim Rohn, there's a very famous quote that's one of my famous. It's by Jim Rohn, and he says, "You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with." So who are you spending time with? You might, if you're living with these people, okay, listen to podcasts like the one you're listening to right now, for example, positive podcasts that are going to actually help you. Read books, look at movies that are happy, and try and limit your exposure. Turn the news off. There you go. Just turn it off.
Yeah.
Turn it off.
Turn it off. There's not a whole lot good on there.
There's
That's
nothing
going
new
to
there.
uplift you.
And if something bad happens, I guarantee you 10 of your friends will be on the phone or texting you virtually immediately. So you're not going to miss anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh, well, if you do, it didn't affect your life negatively. So, so if one way that you know that you've forgiven somebody is that the energy that's released and that it worked, that memory or that person's name doesn't trigger some emotional response in a negative way.
All of the above.
Okay.
When I forgive somebody, I actually feel, I write in my solar plexus, right here, right above, right kind of at the top of my stomach. I actually feel pressure. Kind of feels like a release. And that's when I've truly forgiven somebody. I kind of feel that pressure. And what you're going to feel is going to be unique to you. My oldest son feels his shoulders getting lighter. He said that physically feels lighter. Some other people get really tired, which is why I want you to do it before bed. Everybody feels it differently. And the other way you'll know you completely forgiven somebody is you can see their name and it's not going to affect you. The memory will not pop up. You'll look at the name and you'll just go, huh. And it'll probably surprise you because it's just, you're not going to feel anything. And it's not that you're numb. It's just that you don't care. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that neutrality. I'm looking for that meh kind of attitude. That's what I'm looking for. And if you run into them at a party, you probably won't care. Will you remember all the stuff? Yeah, you will. But there'll be a part of you that just doesn't care.
Yeah. Is there
Unless it does, and you have to go home and forgive them again, and that happens.
Well, that's what I was just going to ask is like, does sometimes like we've gone through the process of forgiving, something or someone, and it might come up again. It might be and get triggered. And so you have to like maybe forgive.
Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt
It
multiple
happens.
times. It happens.
Okay.
Done it myself. You see that person's name, and I have forgiven them because I have, and I see their name and I see what they're doing. And in the back of my head, it's like nuts. I've got to go forgive this person again. In the Bible, it says, what is it? I actually have read the Bible. I'm not particularly religious, but Jesus does say how many times you should forgive 70 times 7 or
7.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that. I think translated, it means do it again.
Yeah.
I think that's all. Do it again.
And just don't be surprised.
Don't be surprised if you have to keep doing it, especially if it's family. Because Thanksgiving is going to come, and Christmas and Hanukkah and all these other holidays, and some bright person will say, let's have a family reunion. Oh, glory. I have to spend multiple days with these people. Yeah, you're going to have to practice forgiveness again. You're going to go in knowing you're going to have to do it again. Drinking a fifth of scotch is not going to help you. You're going to have to do it again. And you'll go in knowing that ahead of time.
Right. Right.
I have a client who really wanted her family to forgive, so she left my book on the coffee table, and I said, did it work? She said, no, it sat there for weeks, but it made me feel better, she said.
Yeah,
the word was
hints
there.
don't always get caught. So
no, they weren't taking the hint, apparently.
Oh, great.
I thought it was funny.
Well, yeah, this has been so good because it's been a different shift on how, people can forgive anything and anyone, but it's out of the perspective that it frees us. It
does.
frees ourselves. And that's really what it's all about, because you don't have to talk to him. You don't have to announce it to the world. You can
Mm-mm.
do it in, right before bed in the darkness, in the middle of the night.
Nobody has to
Nobody
know.
has to know.
But they will know because they're going to look at you and the next day. I guarantee this will happen. I don't like to guarantee things, but I'm pretty sure this will happen. They're going to look at you and say, there's something different about you. Did you change your hair or is that a new out? There's some, I can't put my finger on it, but there's something different because the more you practice forgiveness
Mhm.
using my method, the better you're going to feel. And your skin is going to look better. Your face is going to be softer. It's just and what it's really called is you're going to be vibrating differently. Everything in the
Yep,
universe is vibrates and you're going to be vibrating differently. And everybody is going to feel it. They're going to see it, but they're going to also feel that you're not giving off these angry vibes anymore. They're softer and more loving, and everybody will notice.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Where can people find out more about you and your book?
They can go to my website, and my first name is spelled very strangely. Thanks, Mom. It's spelled Katharine, Giovanni.com. All of the information can be found on there. You can also go to Amazon. My books are all over Amazon. And for those of you who don't like to read, I have your back. There's an audio version available on Amazon that you can download.
Nice, nice. And I'll have those links to those in the show notes. So that's awesome. So as we wrap up today, this has been a wonderful conversation, but do you have a thought or a quote that you would like to leave the listeners with?
Don't give up. And for the women in the audience, it really wasn't your fault. And y'all know who I'm talking about because there's somebody out there that needs to hear it, but it wasn't your fault. And you can move forward in forgiveness. Every morning, you're given 24 brand new hours. So every morning is another opportunity to get it right. And if I haven't motivated you, this 105-year-old woman, 3 weeks ago, I read this article, 105 got her master's degree.
Oh, wow.
I saw it online. I checked it out to make sure it was true. 105. So
Awesome.
if she can do that at 105, you can start forgiving people in your life so you can get to 105.
Hey, that's some good motivation because I feel like I got half my life left to live. So I want to
Well,
live
that's where my
well.
brain went too, actually. I did a little math in my head. It's like, ooh, I got time.
Yes, but I got to let go of the negative energy in order
Yeah.
to get there, because
Yep.
we can vibrate very well off of some forgiveness vibes, and we can just do so much more and be so much more productive and effective and impactful in people's lives.
And be
So,
good to yourself. This is not easy. There's
no.
nothing I'm telling you to do is easy. It's hard. And sometimes you're not going to want to forgive somebody on your list. Well, then pick out the memory. Forgive the part of the memory you can forgive. But
Mhm.
this is hard. But at the end of the day, this work, which a lot of people call shadow work, this work is going to change your life. You'll see new opportunities. You'll be able to get that new job and that new house and lose that weight because you're going to see the opportunities. You're going to feel better.
Yes, awesome. So many wonderful gems in this. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your book and your journey of forgiveness with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.